Welcome to the Be More You podcast.
We're your hosts, Mon
and Stefan.
And this is a space where we want you to be more like you
and less like everyone else.
Enjoy this episode.
And we're rolling.
Alright guys, welcome back to season 2 of the Be More You podcast.
Oh my god, you might have just heard a sip for the start of season 2.
So we're still not good at intros, but that's just us. I'm just going to fully acknowledge the fact that we're probably going to be shit at these forever.
Yeah, I'm happy to be bad at intros because I was going to say I'm good at the other stuff, but I'm not.
So we finished season 1 with 8 guests that were friends of ours essentially, and I mean season 2 is going to be no different. We really like just bringing local talent and local people doing really cool shit to this platform. That's what this platform was all about to start off with.
Yeah.
You know?
I really enjoy it because I feel like there's so many people that we've had on. Like, I've had those same conversations with them anyway, so it doesn't feel like, obviously there was like Lena, for example, when you can't. I hadn't ever spoken to her for that long, so I hadn't had that conversation. But like, what I'm saying is, I don't feel like it's ever any different speaking to anybody here than it is on the phone to them or in the lounge room of my house or down at the waterfront. Or it's really cool because I've had people say to me before, they're like, "Oh, podcasts are weird because it's like you press go and then you've got to do something." And I was like, I definitely felt like that at the beginning because I was like, oh fuck, I've got to say something, I think, or just like I've got to listen, and I've got to, which I try my hardest to listen all the time anyway, but my mind just darts sometimes. But I was like, I can understand how you'd think that, and I'm sure there are platforms out there that would be like that and not negatively, just would be like, all right, we need to ask this many questions because this is the information that we're putting out. And I think that's incredible, but it doesn't feel like that on here. It just feels like chatting, and I really like it.
Well, that's the whole point. It's like conversational, and it's also to give other people a space where they can just share their experiences and their stories.
Everyone's so interesting.
Everybody is interesting if you take the time to listen to a person.
Yeah.
Like,
he's done so many cool things.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess season 2 is going to be no different to that. We're going to keep bringing on people that we either know personally or people that we just think are doing really cool things, and getting them on here to share their experiences and their stories and their knowledge to the world. So that's not really going to change in this season. I will say the seasons are going to be 10 episodes though every season, purely because we have a really big year next year. Yeah, this episode goes live next week. Yeah. We've got a really big year next year. So I'm just forgetting everything. A really big year next year, which we kind of touched on in the last episode of season 1 a couple weeks back, which is the whole series that we're going forward with called A Year to Live.
A Year to Live.
Do you want to do a drum roll again? That is not a drum roll. I don't even know what that was.
That's actually a vocal warm-up. They're called siren trills.
So for anyone wanting to do a vocal warm-up on their way to work, there you go. Stefan just gave you one. But basically the concept, if you haven't listened to that episode, was we sat down and decided that for the whole year of 2022, we were basically going to go out and just go after the things that we've always wanted to do individually, then come together and do it together through the platform of Be More You, in hopes that it would also inspire other people to just go out and do the same thing, essentially, whatever that is to them, whatever their dream is to them or whatnot. So I guess, do you want to talk about one of the big things you're going to be doing in 2022? The music?
Yeah, so as anybody who's had listened to this has probably heard, I sing and write songs. So one of the biggest things for me, let me just start at the beginning.
Let me start back in 1991.
So it was April 7th, 1991. It was about 3:47 p.m. My mum went, "Thank fuck, he's finally out." This little shit, and Dad's like, "Woo!" And then I'll fast forward to about 6 months ago. So no, I think for me, so I'm releasing an album, which is sick, which is, I've always wanted to do this. But it's been really I'm just going to start talking and it's not going to make sense for a little bit, then it'll all come back together. So, no, I'll try my hardest to make it make sense. I think this really begun when my old band stopped playing together. Finally, Kieran messaged me yesterday, our old drummer.
Huh.
I'll show you it's really funny.
Okay.
It's a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mr. Bean's on top of Arnold Schwarzenegger's shoulders. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's going, the drummer, and then Mr. Bean's the band. So the drummer holds the band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
funny.
So it's funny. It was very funny. Followed by Shembri telling him to, oh my God, I just stopped myself from swearing. Joe, you would be so proud of me.
Stefan got told I'm swearing too much on the podcast.
Apparently I swear, but I swear too much in everyday life, so I don't know. Dad told me I'm authentic, so it's okay.
Anyway, your story.
So, yeah, I think it all started when... So I left the last band... no, I'm going to stop thinking. I keep thinking, oh, you've explained this, yada, yada, yada. Stop, Stefan. Just talk. I'm going to start talking. And go. So, I left the last... one of the biggest things about leaving the last band was that the music wasn't authentic to me. And I had made so many compromises up to that point. Because... Like, musical compromises, but I just felt like moral compromises as well. And, like... I just didn't feel like I noticed myself making decisions that weren't actually aligned with me because it felt aligned with the band or something like that, which is fucked up. I think any group of, like, you shouldn't be sacrificing your own integrity to make a decision in line with the majority. That's fucked. I've never thought of it like that before. Lucky you left, Stefan. So, yeah, I think it all began then because a lot of these songs... 80% of these songs that I've written are from the last 3 years. So, and it's really interesting because this album, it is just the last 3 years of my life, which has been the most growth in my entire life as well. So it's a really interesting collection of songs and it goes on quite a wild ride. There's obviously going to be relationships things in there. There's breakup things in there, but it's mostly self-reflective.
Yeah.
And looking at the way that I view the world, the way that I view myself, the way that I view myself affects the way that I view the world.
Yeah.
And how that... my brain nearly fucking tripped over then. So the songs are all sort of just about that. And it's been really interesting for me because... 6 months ago was like, I don't think I'm ever going to do this again.
Yeah. It
wasn't even 6 months ago. It was probably less than that. And it wasn't true. That statement wasn't true to me, but it was covered in fear. And yeah, I sung the songs to Ariel and she's like, just please release one of them because that describes somebody really close to me, what they're going through, and it describes a lot of what I've gone through. I was like, oh, maybe. I think I just got to not do it. And then as I did more work and cleared more things out, I realised that I was just terrified of failing and terrified of not being enough and was using all of the things externally to me to validate how strongly I felt about myself or the lack of which I felt about myself. So album is the big thing that you can hold for 2022 for me. But the thing for me has been, I've always wanted a career in music since I was a kid. As we both found out that we both had the same... Dad, if you listen to this, do you remember, was it you? I think it was you that took me to, I think, Sanity.
Oh my God, Sanity!
And got me Bon Jovi... Is it Crush?
It's Crush. 2000.
It's my life, and it's now or never.
We were literally driving in the car last night, and he was like... Bon Jovi came on. It was my favourite Bon Jovi song that came on the radio.
Yes.
In These Arms. And then I was like, oh, no, you said my first album was Bon Jovi. And I was like, oh, same. And he's like, yeah, what did you say it was?
No, first Mon goes, oh, it's an old album that's new. And I nearly crashed. I was going down the highway. Oh, did I just pull that out? No, I didn't.
Stop touching it, though.
It's old, new. And I was like, what?
It's an old album, but one of the newer ones is what I was trying to say. Anyway, it was Crush. which was an album in 2000. And yeah, you said yours was Living on a Prayer or something.
And I was wrong. And then you showed me the front. I was like, no, it's my life.
Yeah. So we pretty much there's been a lot of synchronicities with this shit. Like, so many. Do you remember the Christmas footage?
Yeah. The same year on rollerblades inside the house.
Yeah. So that's a long story. Anyway.
So, so I've wanted to do this forever. And if I only had a year left to live, I would do exactly what I'm doing. I would release an album, and I would do it to the best of my ability, and I would fucking put everything into it, which is exactly what I'm doing. But the thing that ties into that is like the connection piece for me. So I can't, which is what we were talking about earlier, I can't move forward unless I understand my place in something. Yeah. I can't move forward unless I'm aligned with the things that are surrounding me. I can't communicate with somebody correctly unless I know, and it's not even like I have to understand the whole situation to control it or anything like that. Because this little voice in my head keeps going, just let it go, just let it go. It's like, I just need to express myself. There's always so much information coming in at once that I'm getting so off topic. There's always so much information coming in at once that I'm like, to sit within that, I like to communicate within that. But anyway, so the connection piece, for me to release an album authentically, it requires me to connect to the people closest to me authentically. Mm-hmm. Because without those relationships, without being able to step forward into an aligned life, how am I ever going to be able to speak the truth that I want to speak if I'm not aligned with the simplicities of life, with just the human interactions that I have every day, with the relationships that I hold closest to me? Like, how am I supposed to do anything authentically if those things aren't not even as good as they can be, if they're just not as aligned as they can be? So ever since, I haven't taken any drugs or anything for like 8 months now or something, which is really cool. Yay! This is where all the balloons go up. You know, is it when you send a message or something? Oh my god! And you say congratulations. Yeah. Is that on Facebook?
No, it's on.
Is it on
iMessage?
And then the balloons pop up. Oh, I wish we could do that with audio.
I mean, we can try.
Insert balloons here. So, yeah, what I've noticed in that time is a lot of the relationships that are closest to me haven't been super authentic. There have been some that are have been incredibly authentic throughout my life. But some of the ones that are most important to me, I don't think I've ever given them the attention that they deserve. And I don't think that I've ever, just from my point of view, just from like my input and my, speaking of which, I got to message my mum back. I am coming for dinner tonight, Mum.
1 week later, she finds out on the podcast.
Love you, Mum. But yeah, I realised that I haven't, like, I've just my whole life been trying so hard to keep my head above water. And I'm sure there's many elements of me not wanting to face the truth of the people closest I'm talking to, obviously about my family, like my mum, my dad, my brother, my sister, my nan and my pop, cousins, everyone. I just want to know what it feels like to have real relationships, like without all of the fucking redundant old patterns that all of us live in. I don't expect for them to all be gone in a year. That's crazy. But I would like to try and move through some of them. The amount of men that I've spoken to, I've already spoken about the big, I'll call it, not argument, but I'll call it a breakthrough, actually, a big breakthrough, which was an argument, that Dad and I had earlier this year. And I think I've only spoken about 4 guys. I don't know that well about it. Not through lack of communicating, just it just hasn't come up. But every single one of them said the same thing. They were like, I never thought I'd have that connection with my dad. And I was just like, fuck. What's your dad, like 50, 60? He could live for another 30 years. It's what I realised about my dad right before we had that. I think that's what actually evolved into that argument. I remember walking through Tasmania being like, is he just going to fucking die and I'm never going to connect with him properly? Yeah. And like that scared the fucking hell out of me. So one of my big things for 2022 is connection as well. And can I just keep going? Well, yeah. So
yeah.
no, because I was gonna start. So also this week, one of my brother's friends died last week. He overdosed, which was really sad because I haven't seen him for a very, very long time. But my God, was he a funny kid. Like, a funny young man now, actually. He's not a kid anymore. And it obviously fucked me up. But it fucked me up a lot because I realised I hadn't put as much attention recently into drug addiction and mental health and stuff like that. And not like, oh, you should have done more. It's not that at all. In the slightest. I shouldn't have done any more than what I've done up until now. But I'm like, it is a conversation that I would like to have. Like, it is a conversation that I would like to open up. And it is a conversation that I'd like to have with just everyday people. Like, they're the most important people.
Yeah.
Like, I think the reason I said that is because one of the things that held me back from sharing for so long was like, I have to be a success. And my idea of what success was I have to make it. And my idea of making it was this extremely wealthy, extremely well-known human being that had done all the things that he ever wanted to do. And that's just it's not useful for anybody. Like, and the reason I say everyday normal people is because I think a lot of us have, like, why a lot of us have that voice in our head that goes, why would I share? I haven't done anything that cool.
Yeah.
It's like, bullfucking, you're alive. Everyday, ordinary, normal. I actually hated that I said that, but it's the only way I could differentiate the two and make a point. But everyday is like the most special fucking thing ever. It's like the fact that we're alive is the most fucking special thing ever. The fact that you overcame something, or even if you're still trying to work it, I'm still trying to work addiction out. I don't fucking get it yet.
Yeah.
I'm not immune to it. I had a really tough couple of weeks and I was like, oh, I would love to smoke the biggest joint and drink a bottle of scotch right now. I don't even like scotch. But God, I wanted to get hammered. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't felt that for a while. But that is a conversation that I want to have with more and more people. So I'm going to be doing, which we haven't really worked out the logistics of it yet, but I've got a bunch of guests that I'm going to start talking to, and we're going to do it here. Well, it might not be in this room, but either at their house, in my house, wherever the fuck they want. And we'll sit down and talk about whatever they want to talk to and however they've gotten through. Because was it on here that we were talking about all the nuance of things? I don't know if that's the right word. The nuance.
Sally,
yeah.
I can't remember.
It might have been. I think that's because I think so much, especially with like drug and alcohol addiction, it's been glorified so much in a sense of like being this rock and roll thing or this movie star thing or something. And then it almost looks like the only way to get out is to be super successful.
Yeah, so I was going to actually jump in before when you said that, because the whole thing of like you can't speak about all this stuff until you've proven that like you're worthy of having that story to tell kind of thing is bullshit. Just that's plain bullshit. But like everyday people are going through those things. Like you look at the mental health statistics nowadays, like they're fucking from the last 2 years and everything that's gone on, like more people need to hear that they're not alone. And they're going to relate more to a person like you than a successful musician who seems to have a lavish life and is like a great success. It's not relatable to someone who's in the thick of it. No, it's not at all. And like you said, you're still not out of the woods completely because stuff pops up for you and you're like, I don't know how to deal with this. Like, this is new. This is like, but I'm observing it and I'm moving through it. So like having these conversations like you're going to have, like when you said you were going to do it, I was like, yeah, you should 100%. Like it should be you and only you sitting there talking to people, because as much, and I think like you also have to be careful not to like trauma bond. So then it's like, okay, you're stuck now in this spot and you don't want to move because it's really comfortable. But you have a way of just like you said, not glorifying the experience, but acknowledging the experience and being like, okay, this thing happened. You went through this, blah, blah, blah. But like, what did you try to do to move through it? Because everybody's way of doing that is so different. There's no one size fits all. There's no like guarantee with a way you did it versus the way someone else is trying to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole fucking point, is you will fuck it up, and it is really hard, and it is... I had a call, just popped into my head, with someone who... he's been a subscriber of mine since literally day one, and he lives in Canada. Anyway, he was talking to me about just a lot of the stuff he's been going through lately, and I'm not going to say his name, but he went through a breakup, he tried drugs and whatever, and he was just like in this really, really, really bad headspace. And he was telling me like everything he'd been going through, and the only thing that really stuck out to me was like these crazy labels he was giving himself. Like, I'm just such an anxious person. I just had a stroke. And it just was like repeated 500 times, and all I could hear was him saying, I am an anxious, like affirming to himself constantly in an hour-long conversation. And I didn't say it, I didn't pull him up on it when we were in the middle of it, because I was like, nah, like I'll just let him speak. But then at the end of it, I just said to him, I'm like, you in that call, in the first like 25 minutes, said to yourself and to me like over 30 times that you're an anxious person. Like, you're in a state of anxiety where what you're experiencing right now is valid. It's very real. Yeah. It is. I'm not disregarding the fact that, you know, you're experiencing that because of your past experiences, but can you hear yourself telling yourself that over and over again? Like, and he was saying how he's in the middle of like this whole healing process, and like it's really confusing and it's uncertain and it's this and it's that. And I was like, yeah, that's the fucking point. You're in the middle of it. You're not meant to have it figured out. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really fucking hard and challenging at times. And just when you think you've clocked it, the universe comes back around with a bat and like beats the shit out of you and goes, did you really learn the lesson, or were you just bullshitting yourself? And it was just so interesting hearing him talk about it, because I was like, I remember being in that spot, and like I still am sometimes. I'll find myself in like like we were talking before, just shaky ground where you're like, I could jump that way in a second, or I could fall back. But then you look on the outside of it when you move through that like sandstorm or whatever, and then it all starts to make sense later down the track. But when you're in the thick of it, it's fucking ugly, and it's shit, and it's crap, and it's every emotion under the sun, and you should fully acknowledge that. And I sometimes forget when I speak to people. I'll be like, yeah, but you know, you just got to do this. And I'm like, yeah, but that wasn't easy for you when you were in that position. Yeah. The first person that tried to tell you, oh, just do this or just do that, you're like, fuck off.
Fuck you for making it so simple.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not at all. And like, yeah, just like listening to him this morning, I was like, oh, wow, like ordinary person going through what feels really extreme things in the moment. Like he was saying, I'm paralyzed by this anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely paralyzed to the point where my body shuts down. That's very real.
Very real.
That's very, very real. And that should be acknowledged. But what should also be acknowledged is the fact, like, what are you telling yourself every single time this comes up? Because that's going to pave the way forward. It's not going to be easy, and I'm not, by God, saying any of this is easy. But it was just really interesting to hear it, because it's all I could hear in the conversation was just that. And I was like, if you're saying this to me, how many times a day do you say this to yourself?
Well, it's like that same thing that we spoke to Steve about. I think it's really incredible that everyone's able to share as much as they do, especially coming from me. I share everything.
But, sorry, can I just say one more thing quickly? I don't mean to cut
No, go.
But that's the importance of sharing, because it makes people feel not crazy.
Yes, that is the importance of sharing. Abso-fucking-lutely, yes.
Like, you know, you might not be going through the exact same thing as I am, but on some elements it is relatable and similar. That makes me feel less, like, insane. Because other people are other people experience this paralyzation with anxiety? What? Like, I thought that was just me. It's like, no. There are so many people going through so many different things, and there are so many people who are just trying to cope. Who are finding different ways with what they know and what they have around them and who they're surrounding themselves with. Like, I have full empathy for people who are just, like, surviving. Like, I really fucking do. But then I also think, like, at what point does the switch happen where you stop just trying to survive, when you kind of are in a space where it is sort of like, like, still shaky, but and you go, okay, I need to start thriving now. Like, I need to start doing the things that are actually gonna ground me a little bit more.
So I think this is where it's so important to talk to so many different people, because that switch happens for everybody differently.
Yeah.
Like, and it does, and it's, I reckon 90% of the time it's not even a switch. It's like a long, slow burn, and then finally something clicks, and it might feel like a switch, but it's like, no, it's the fucking 12 months you were doing before it.
Yeah.
It's all that shit led up to it, and it's like, finally, you're ready to step through this thing now. It's not that you just worked it out and you were dumb for all the other times that you couldn't fucking work it out. Yeah. It's like, no. All those times were really good and really valid. Everything you did was correct. You have not done a single thing wrong. Yeah. Now you get to go into the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think people can like work. I think, obviously, like, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a psychologist, and I can barely string a sentence together sometimes. But, like, what I do think with, like, I've been for a while now, and I think it was beneficial for me to say this to myself in order for me to try and move past it, is like the whole everybody's addicted to something, which is true, and it's a perspective that's being spoken about a lot more these days. Even my trainer, Anth, he's very... We should have Anth on here one day, actually.
Sure,
Anth's incredible. Anth, I'll cut this little bit out and I'll send it to you. He's very passionate about addiction, because his whole thing is, he's like, yep, drug and alcohol addiction is real. However, everybody's addicted to something.
Yeah.
So I adopted that for a long time. My heart, through my own personal experiences, just lies a little more heavy with those that do get caught up in substance abuse, because I've said this to you so many times, just the willingness to ruin, or the willingness to ignore how much you're ruining your own life is incredible to watch. It's like, yeah, people are addicted to their phones, and maybe a slow burn over an entire life, you can ruin your entire life by looking at your phone too much. Definitely. You miss every single moment of every single day. I agree with that. And I'm not putting either experience up against one another at all, or comparing at all. It's just, for me, that perspective of, like, I think it can be detrimental at times, because for somebody who is going through a really heavy substance abuse, because it's like, yeah, but that person that's looking at their phone just a little bit too much isn't going to fucking sell everything they've got to buy more drugs. They're not going to rob their friends. They're not going to fucking do something illegal. They're not going to make they're not going to be unfaithful to partners, or go down all these other fucking avenues that someone like this is willing to do at the fucking drop of a hat, just to try and feel something, or just to try and escape a little bit further, or just to try and fucking make a little bit more sense of themselves. Because I'm like, maybe if I just follow this urge one more time, I can fucking work it out. Maybe if I just put myself I just have a really soft spot for that, because I was just surrounded by it forever, and I've just tried my whole life to try and fucking work it out. So I'm really excited to do that. I'm really nervous as well, because there's parts of my own experience that I'm still really, really guilt-ridden and shameful about, which I look forward to not being anymore at some point. So talking to that as well is going to be really cool. But yeah, basically, I realized if I only had a year left to live, I would spend the year also shedding light on this, because I think it's really important. I don't think you can move through anything like this until part of the collective shame and guilt starts to fucking move through. Like you say drug addict, and everyone's like, oh, fucking, they should know better by now. They're how old? Fucking get over it. This, and I'm generalizing a lot now, but I still see it now. I still hear that now with people. I'm like, you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know how hard that person's trying. Some people aren't, but a lot of people are. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to do that. I don't know. I was driving. Where was I driving? I think I was driving. Do you know how much happens to me on the way to either Ocean Grove or Drysdale?
A lot. So
I was actually going to teach. I think I was going to teach. Yeah, I would have been going to teach yin and sound bath. And it was after I don't know if I said before, Tyson's friend overdosed. was after that had happened. I was listening to this song. It's by a band called Highly Suspect, and it's called For Billy. And he obviously died. It was one of his friends, and I used to listen to it. I still listen to it heaps from Matt. I was playing that, and then I started crying, and then I started thinking about not talking about all this stuff. But like, I had the thought of doing it. I think I called you straight after that. I had the thought of doing this, and like everything. Then I started crying out of happiness. Fuck, I cry so much now. Like, it's so fucked up.
No, it's not.
No, not fucked up in a bad way. Not fucked up in I just didn't realise the level in which you could feel.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's bonkers. I'm just not numbing anything, and I'm like really trying to be accountable for my emotions. So, yeah, I just realised, basically, the point of that little mini story there was, I realised how important this was to me at that moment. And I realised how beneficial it would be for me just to speak to people, and how beneficial it would be for those individuals that come on and talk, first and foremost. Well, me individually and them first and foremost, because I think that's the only way any possible change can happen, is if we're both doing what's best for us. But I do believe that just having that conversation open and out in the air will just maybe... I don't need everybody to come in and talk. Everybody does not have to fucking jump up and go, hey, I'm going to tell the whole world about everything I ever did. That's definitely not the aim, but maybe you can just tell the person closest to you that you're struggling.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can just go, hey, mum and dad, all those years where I said you were crazy for thinking that I was going through something bad, I lied. I was fucking heaps of shit up, and I didn't know. I was filled with too much shame to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'll be really cool.
Do you remember when before we even started this Be More You thing, and we did the Finally Found podcast, you and I, you said to me, you're like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. I don't know how. Like, I wanted to do something like this. I just don't know how to go about putting this stuff out there.
Oh!
So when you called me in the car, when you had that whole moment, and you were like, oh, I really want to do this thing where I get people to talk on the podcast, sharing their stories, blah, blah, blah. I just remember that moment. I was like, I knew he'd find it. Like, I knew he'd finally come around and he'd find that thing. Which was why I was like, yeah, this is exactly what you should be doing. Like, it's absolutely this, because you are a relatable person. Because you don't glorify, because you don't, like, make excuses. It's, like, full accountability and owning the whole story. And that is, like, the part that, or I believe, just from my own personal experience, when you start owning it, it's the thing that sets you free. It's the thing that allows you to move forward. Because if you're not holding yourself back, who else is? No one. Nothing.
No.
It's only if you give the power over to other people, when you give a fuck about what they think or what they have to say about you, then yeah, you're going to have those like rungs strapped around you for ages until you cut the cords. But yeah, so you can tell it's going to be a very big year.
Yeah, there's lots on. And what do you do? Do you want to go now?
Mine's not as like crazy as yours, but
yes, it is. You're doing heaps.
No, it is, and like I think, like everybody asked me, what would you do if you had a year?
Actually, can I just chime in here? The thing that I love most about, firstly, this is Mon's whole concept, a year to live. Secondly, the only reason you want to do this is to help people realise their potential and the possibility in which they could achieve if they just applied themselves.
Yeah.
Or if they put themselves in positions to work through the things they needed to in order to get to where they needed to go. Your year literally couldn't be bigger, because all you're trying to do is show people their own possibility.
Yeah.
Like, you're literally trying to change the world.
Yeah. You stole the answer from my mouth. Thank you for explaining that. I was like, oh my god, how did you just read my mind? No, you're absolutely right. Like this, the thing I was going to say was when people ask me, oh, like, what would your year to live be? I was like, I'm doing it. This is it.
Yeah.
It's documenting this entire year of actively going out and trying to just show people what it means to just step up and like be a part of your own life instead of just being the constant bystander watching it go by and giving that power over to other people to tell you what you should be doing. And I think like the last 2 years for me doing this solo and just putting myself through all the mental, physical challenges that I have, it's all led me to this point. And I'm really grateful that I get to do it with someone like you who brings this whole other element and all these other experiences to it that just amplifies this whole thing. But like if you ask me what like do I want to do, like what's my one thing, there's a bunch of like little bucket list items that I have, but honestly, and I keep telling everybody, I'm like, I just want to change one person's life, but like change it dramatically, like not just, oh, you had a conversation with me and it changed my life. Like, how do I actually make a really solid impact on a person's life? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but that's the point. It's the whole process of, okay, this is the end goal, this is what you want to achieve by the end of the year. Like, every touch point, everything you do leading up to the end of this year has to gravitate towards that end goal. So my focus and my vision on every video idea, every, sponsor we will go out to, everything has to align with that goal of how is this, or how could this potentially change a person's life?
Yes.
So, I might get to the end of the year and change 50 people's lives. Sick. I might just change one person's. Sick. Like, but I think setting myself that goal, it's like that's the vision. That's the focus of this whole thing is how do you just do more and be more for yourself first to then go and do more and be more for other people.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work the other way.
No.
Doing more and being more to a certain extent will give you gratification and, fulfill you, but it'll also deplete you real hard and fast. And if you're not doing the things you need to do for yourself first to be at 100%, then you're never going to be able to give anybody else 100%.
Nope. No.
So that is kind of what my year to live thing is, essentially. But I'm just excited to explore, like, just the different concepts of, like, if that's at the forefront of everything you do, like, would you waste a day? I feel like I don't waste days right now. My days are so filled with like everything, and like lately, I mean, we're both burnt out like no fucking tomorrow. But I had this conversation with someone the other day. They're like, you do so much, you just need to take a break. I'm like, the reason why this is hard for me to take a break from is because I love it so much. It doesn't feel like work. It inspires the living shit out of me. At no point have I required motivation to edit a podcast, to go and do some, like, do a video, film a video, whatever. Like, everything. I won't do it if it doesn't inspire me.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't deplete me in that sense because it's like it's adding value to me. So, I don't know where I was going with that, but you said something at the beginning and it kind of relates back to that. Now I've completely forgotten. This is how tired I am. I'm still waking up at 4 a.m, so... I
laid in bed the other day and watched Workaholics all day.
I'm really glad you did that. I'm really, really glad. But
it's really good. Season 5's great. Anybody's looking for something to watch.
But no, like, I think just the point is, how do you, one of the questions is, like, how do people find, for me to be asking people, is how do you just find the thing that inspires you and you let that thing guide you and lead you? Because things don't have to be that difficult. Like, we really do sometimes make things hard on ourselves because we're not listening to ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, we do. It's really hard to listen to yourself too.
Yeah.
That's what I've been learning lately. It's really hard.
It's really
Follow
interesting.
Your intuition. I'm trying!
It's really interesting because, like, since we said we were going to do this whole YouTube series, I feel like every month there's, like, for me, this is personally, there's been like a lesson of the month that I've had to learn. Every month there is like I'm saying, there's a clear-cut lesson that I'm having to learn. And like entering into 2022, we haven't even started the fucking year yet. And mine has literally been in this order, like learning to let go and surrender, and then learning to just be patient and just sit in that like nothing, that like ground of I don't know, like I'm literally that emoji, like
I don't know.
And just being, I think I've said this to you before, being an active observer in your life. So not a passive observer where it's like you're on autopilot and you're just watching everything go by without really doing anything about it. It's been like, I'm seeing everything happen. I can see it clearly. I can see old things coming up. I can see patterns, behaviors, everything. I can see how I reacted in the past. Then there's like the present day version of me is just watching it going, don't do that. And then I actively inject myself into that situation and go, this is where I have to cut this thing and rip out the root. Mm-hmm. And like pave a new path.
Yes.
And in my head, what it looks like is just literally like transmitter pathways just reprogramming themselves.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting, particularly in the last month. Like everything is shifting and changing rapidly. What this thing was 2 months ago is like completely different to what it's going to be in 2022.
Because we're just constantly trying to be more us.
That's it.
So every time we change and this shifts, it just becomes a little bit more authentic.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do this.
Publicly, yes.
It's really hard to talk about everything all the time.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do the things that are best for you. So yeah. But it's really rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I don't doubt that at all. So yeah, it's going to be a big year, and I think the really cool thing is getting other people involved in it as well. And that's not just on the podcast, that's like in videos. Like part of my whole concept of what I wanted this thing to be was I literally wanted to just find people and be like, what do you want to do? Like, what's something you've always wanted to do? Cool, let's go out and make that happen.
Yes.
So if you're someone that's sitting there listening to this being like, I need someone to kick me up the arse, please.
Mon will fucking boot you.
Reach out. Reach out to us, because this is
reach out and touch.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
No, that's where it was going.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to do that. I would love to have a listener come and, us help them do, I don't know, whatever it is that they've wanted to do. Like, that's all I was trying to achieve on my platforms before we started this. And that's rewarding for me, because it's like you get to physically see a person shift their whole dynamic of what they thought was possible. Because they did the fucking thing. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. It's like absolutely not important. It's just keeping that promise to yourself of, I've always wanted to do this and now I'm doing it. And it doesn't matter about my age. It doesn't matter about like, what's happened to me in the past. Like I said, I wanted to do this and now here I am doing it.
Yes. I would love maybe next year when we're away or doing something to have just a part of the year where we have a breakfast radio show.
That's cool. I'm down.
We could just do it on here. It can just be on Spotify. We could have like segments and things like that.
Yeah.
Because yesterday when we were listening to the radio going up to the studio.
Oh God.
You didn't like that?
No, I did. I liked listening with you, but I was just like, some of the shit they were talking about, I was like, what the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But I love the cheesiness of it.
Well, that we got. So it will be sweet if that's the angle you want to go down. Yeah, we can do that.
We could do that. Breakfast radio.
We literally just said the same thing.
And good morning, will you?
Yeah, is there anything else you want to add?
That's pretty much it.
No, I don't think we need to keep this one long. It was just more a recap of like the last season and what we're kind of heading into. So,
well, I think it'll be cool as well because as the year goes on, like the second season or the first season of 2022 there's always epic people. Fuck, I'm so grateful for anybody that is listening right now that has been on this podcast. If you're having a listen, I am so grateful for everybody that's come on.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, there's so many cool people.
There really is, and I think doing this sort of stuff is what opens the floodgates for other people to step up and share.
Yes.
Because they see people every day, ordinary people doing something extra.
Yes.
They're not extraordinary, they're just ordinary people doing that little bit extra, and that's fucking cool. Like, that is so cool.
Yeah.
To see people doing that.
I know. And then we get to have heaps more people. And, I was going to say we'll be doing lots. Maybe the breakfast radio, because because we'll be doing lots next year. There might be time periods where it'll be us talking a lot in podcasts. Maybe that could be breakfast radio. Oh my god, maybe we won't do the breakfast radio.
Stefan, we have a lot on next year. I'm not sure about a daily. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, God knows what we're going to be doing, honestly. Like, we have plans, but...
I can't wait. I just like leaning into the microphone. Somebody... Yes, I'd love a bagel. Thank you.
Alright, we're going to end it here because I think we're running out of things to talk about on this.
No, I could keep going about this.
We're going to end it here.
I'm halfway done. Oh, goodbye. And we will see you next week with our first guest.
Yeah, our first guest back. And yeah, episodes are going live now on Tuesday. So you can expect these episodes to be up every Tuesday on our YouTube channel and our...
Will the launch have been a thing yet?
No. So, no.
Shh. Shh.
We will talk about that at a later date. But the video for the Year to Live, I guess the launch of the whole series, goes live on Jan 2nd. So mark that in your calendars because it's going to be pretty sick.
Yeah, Jan 2nd.
Shout out to Luke for being an amazing filmmaker.
Luke Marriott.
And editor. It's going to look sick.
Thank you, Luke. Anyway,
guys, we will see you back here next week. Have an amazing week ahead.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.